Don't let last night's scoreline trick you into thinking that the game was close. It wasn't. The Blue Jackets were awful. We're going to talk about that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. And I also have to let you know that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet and you can get $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I hope no one had any money on the Blue Jackets game last night being anything other than embarrassing, quite frankly. Here's the thing. If you were just looking at it, you'd be like, you know what, 5-3, that's almost respectable. Like, frustrating to lose, but it is what it is. That was a 5-1 game with like 8 minutes left in the game. Like, Blue Jackets had 6 shots on goal for the first 30 minutes of the game. Like, it was another game that looked exactly like the 23-24 Blue Jackets, which I thought we had left in 23-24, but they just keep on popping up. They keep on coming back, you know? No one was good last night. Like, again, there were 3 goals scored. The Blue Jackets scored on the power play, which was nice. They allowed a power play goal for the 14th straight game. Great to see Sean Monahan get a goal. I love to be right in that aspect of our prediction. Great to see Kent Johnson get a goal. He's now up to 16 points in 14 games, but like, no one was good in that game. Some players were just less bad than others, you know, like we could start with the goaltending. We could start with the fact that the Blue Jackets, again, had 18 shots on goal total. And by the end of the second period had 11 shots on goal. Like, it was kind of a low event game. Like, the Flyers only finished with 24, but like the Blue Jackets should be getting more than 18 shots on goal on the Philadelphia Flyers, who, like, they should, you know, like, let me pull up the numbers in terms of how many shots on average the Flyers allow versus how many the Blue Jackets are supposed to be scoring, supposed to be shooting, I should say. The Blue Jackets are shooting an average of 30.4 shots per game. The Philadelphia Flyers are allowing an average of 27.9. So the Blue Jackets were 10 under what the Flyers have been allowing on average. Like, and this is after this game as well. So I assume that bumped their average down a little bit. Math is impossible, but like, what are we doing here? You know, and the Blue Jackets, who had kind of been one of the better teams at suppressing shots, are creeping up there. They're now 20th in the league. They are allowing 28.2 shots a game. So again, they allowed less than their average last night. So like, I guess that was fine, but this was a game that this should have been an easy 2 points, you know? And it just wasn't. And like, you look at the team that played on the road in Winnipeg, a good team, an arena the Blue Jackets have historically struggled in. The Blue Jackets have been terrible on the road this season. They come out of it with a 4-1 win, and then you turn around, you look at the Flyers that were struggling. Previous to this game, they were on like a 2 or 3 game losing streak. They were, you know, like 25th or 26th in the league in goals allowed per game. Like, this should have been an easy 2 points, and it wasn't. And I think that's what's so frustrating about this loss is people get mad when they lose. Like, okay, I'm including myself in this. People got frustrated by losing to the Flames, the Oilers, and the Canucks. But here's the thing. The Oilers and the Canucks are like good teams. Like, it's frustrating the way that they lost, but it's not frustrating that they actually lost, I don't think. Losing to the Flyers is frustrating because the Flyers are not as good as the Blue Jackets. And I know that they like are above them in the standings right now, but the Blue Jackets are like they're I just think they're a better team on paper. Like, in most of the metrics, like, And that's why it's frustrating to lose. And there are arguments that can be like, well, they just came back from a long road trip. They didn't have their legs under them. Like, they didn't practice. I think they had an optional skate on Monday, and then they had an optional skate on Tuesday before the game. Like, the morning skate was extremely optional. They didn't practice Monday since getting back from Winnipeg. Like, I guess they just didn't have the legs, and that's at this level of the game is kind of unacceptable. Like, yes, they just had a long road trip. Every team in the league has long road trips. Like, you do this every year. You should have come out better. Like, the first period was god awful. Like, they somehow only were down 2-0 at the end of it. We'll talk about goaltending in a little bit more detail in a minute here, but Elvis was atrocious. Like, of the 5 goals that he allowed, I would give him maybe one of them back. He should have had both Konechny goals. He should have had the power play goal against was it Tyson Forster scored the power play? No, Noah Cates, which was a really stupid just a really stupid goal, which really should have set the rest of the evening up. Like, we should have known, quite honestly. Like, is it me, or is this the second time this has happened this season, where the puck has gone up in the air and, like, Elvis has lost it, and it's landed basically on the goal line, and the other team has just managed to, like, smack it in? Like, that's happened before, right? I'm not imagining this, because really stupid goal. The Tippett goal, I think he should have saved. Like, again, the Konechny power play goal, it's, what can you even say about the penalty kill? At this point, I'm just glad when they kill a penalty. The Blue Jackets went 2 of 3 on the penalty kill last night. Like, better, I guess. A better effort, but it's still not good enough. And then, like, the second Konechny goal, like, again, Elvis should have had that. Like, the Frost goal, whatever. At this point, who cares? Elvis was bad. Elvis needs to be better. And we're getting into this thing again where we get a good Elvis game followed by a bad Elvis game, followed by a good Elvis game, followed by a bad Elvis game. And I see a lot of people talking about the goaltending, and they should have pulled Elvis after the third goal. But, like, here's the thing. You're going to put Daniil Tarasov in instead. Daniil Tarasov, who is statistically, I think, like, the 3rd worst goalie in the entire NHL. Like, that's who you want to put in. I get it. Elvis is struggling. And if you can't trust your backup in a game where you're already down 3-0, then, like, it is what it is. But, man, what if I miss October? Do you remember in October when we, like, had faith in our goaltending and, like, everything was great and happy and good? I miss that. Let's take a quick break, and then I want to talk about Adam Fantilli, because he wasn't good last night, and neither was anyone else on his line. So we have to talk about what's going on there, and we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and all other sports, all in one place. So you can get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, if you place a $5 bet and it wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. So just pick, like, the heaviest favorite. I don't know if you can put money on the Blue Jackets allowing a power play goal, but if you can, I would put $5 on that, because chances are you're going to get $150 in bonus bets, and you can spend those bonus bets on whatever you want. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about how terrible last night's game was. We have to talk about Adam Fantilli, who was, again, his line got absolutely caved in last night. Like, it was the worst line for the Blue Jackets in a long, long way. Like, they were on the ice at even strength for 6 shot attempts for, 25 against. What do you even do with that? Like, by comparison, Monahan line, 11 shot attempts for, 5 against. The Danforth line, 6 shot attempts for, 3 against. Cole Sillinger, 7 shot attempts for, 4 against. So, like, no one else was really creating all that much, except for the Monahan line. They were the only line that hit double digits in shot attempts. But the Voronkov, Fantilli, Marchenko line gave up more chances by themselves than every other line put together. Like, what do you? That's got to change. And like I said, what's wrong with Adam Fantilli on my little side thing? But like, it's not just Fantilli. Like, that whole line was terrible, but it feels like they need to do something about Adam Fantilli, because it feels like, again, he hasn't had consistent line mates basically all season. It's been a lot of moving around to try and get him specifically going, which I get. Like, you had the first line, you got it figured out, it's fine. But since they started moving the lines around, like, I really liked the concept of a Voronkov, Fantilli, Marchenko line. I thought that would be fun. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like anyone on that line is playing defense, which is a problem. Like, it's, I don't really know what the answer is here, but looking at I'm just pulling up the Blue Jackets lines in terms of time and ice to see what Fantilli's looking at. Like, his most consistent line mates this season have been Cole Sillinger and Mikhail Pucha for just under 50 minutes. By comparison, Chinakhov, Monahan, Marchenko has 124 minutes. Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko has 112 minutes. So, like, Monahan has had 2 different lines that have had more ice time. They've had more than double the ice time of Fantilli. And again, I get it. You're trying to get Fantilli going. There's been injuries, there's been lineup changes, etc., etc. But like, it's just, that line's not working, so why not change it up? It's clearly, like, you don't have any qualms about switching things up. Like, there's something has to change to go into next game, and I don't understand what it is, because, like, and maybe this is a critique of like eye test versus analytics, is Adam Fantilli doesn't look bad when he's on the ice. I'm pulling up right now his numbers, his expected goals above expected, let's go with. And he is sitting 8th on the team in who've played, at least 50 minutes. He's scored half a goal above expected. Like, he's averaging 7 shots on goal per 60 minutes. So that's averaging about 2.5 shots on goal a game, give or take. 4 shot attempts. He's shooting at 8%. Like, there's clearly something going on. Like, he needs to get that shooting percentage up. But like, all of his shot attempts as well are like low danger. So he's not getting into the high danger areas. His Corsi is fine. His expected goals is not. When he's on the ice, the expected goals percentage is only 39%. So like, and again, this is something that I don't think is specifically a Fantilli problem. I think it's specifically, or like less specifically, I think it's a second line problem that they can't figure out who his line mates should be. And like, if I go back to the Blue Jackets lines to see like who his best line mates were, let's like sorted by expected goals for, like, his best option here was again, small sample size, but Fantilli, Monahan, Marchenko had an expected goals percentage of 57%. Next to that, Johnson, Fantilli, Sillinger is sitting at 50%. They played 45 minutes together. Obviously they've moved Johnson up and they've moved Sillinger down, but like, that line was good, and I don't know why I do kind of know why they changed it, but like, honestly, I would consider going back to that. Like, put Marchenko back up on the top line with Monahan. That's working really well. I like Monahan Johnson as a line. That's also working really well. Like, okay, here's the thing. Here is what I would do is I would put Monahan and Marchenko back together, and then probably keep Van Riemsdyk there until Chinakhov gets back, just because I don't really have anyone else that would go there. So Van Riemsdyk / Chinikov, Monahan, Marchenko, and then do Johnson, Fantilli, Sillinger, and then do Voronkov, Danforth, Olivier, and then Aston Reese, Corrali, LeBanc. All 4 of those lines are 50% or better at expected goals against. The Voronkov, Danforth, Olivier line actually had an expected goals percentage of 86.4. Again, small sample size, but like there are lines here that work and there are lines that don't. And unfortunately, right now, Adam Fantilli seems to keep getting stuck on a line that doesn't work. And partially, I think it's like sophomore slump. Partially, I think that he's not getting afforded the same opportunities as Sean Monahan, which is fine, whatever. Sean Monahan has proved himself as the 1C of this team at this moment in time, you know? I'm not worried about Adam Fantilli. I'm not sitting here like, man, this is a really bad sign, because like he looks like he's doing all of the right things. You know, he's skating hard. He's just not getting the right bounces. And when he is with line mates that are producing, he's doing well. But for whatever reason, Fantilli and Marchenko doesn't really seem to work. Voronkov, I don't think is a top 6 player at this moment in time. It's tough. Like, honestly, like, what I would want to do is maybe put Fantilli with, like, Johnson and, like, honestly, maybe Marchenko at this point. I know I just said that they don't work, but, like, Marchenko is maybe the best goal scorer on the team right now. Not maybe, he is the best goal scorer on the team right now. And if that's what it takes to get Fantilli going, like, do that. And then it looks like Monahan can make it work with basically anyone. So, like, if you want to put Monahan with, like, with Johnson and Voronkov, for example, like, go for it. But or not Johnson. If you want to put Monahan with James Van Riemsdyk and Voronkov, like, you'd probably get a non-zero amount of stuff done with it. You know, like Voronkov, Monahan. I'm getting all my names mixed up here because I'm looking at a lot of names on the screen. Like, I'm not worried about Sean Monahan producing at the minute, and I'm not worried about Sean Monahan's like on ice game away from the puck. You know, Adam Fantilli is really struggling at the minute, and it baffles me as to why we're not putting him in the best possible position to succeed. Again, am I worried? No. You know, look at Cole Sillinger's sophomore season. Look at Ken Johnson's sophomore season. Like, it happens, you know? Connor Bedard is having a better season than Adam Fantilli, but he's still kind of going through a similar thing of a sophomore slump. He just went like 12 games without a goal, you know? It happens. It's kids come into the league and no one really knows what to do with them, and they don't overperform, but they have a really strong first season because no one knows how to predict them. Like Dylan Larkin is a really good example, I think, is that Dylan Larkin's rookie season, he flew out there because no one figured out how fast he was, and no one could figure out how to defend on that. And so he scored a bunch of goals. And then his second season, he really struggled, I think, because people were like, oh, it's that Larkin kid. We know what to do now, you know? I'm not worried. If we're still seeing the same thing with Fantilli like this time next year, then that's going to be a problem. But like, I am not worried about Fantilli right now. Or I am, but I'm not sitting here thinking like, man, what if he doesn't work out? You know, Adam Fantilli is going to be fine. It's just frustrating to watch right now, and I don't know why the team isn't putting him in a better position to succeed, because I don't know. I just don't get it. Like, that's the long and short of it here, is I don't understand what the theory is. Like, I don't understand what the reasoning is for Fantilli right now. Like, I would love if someone asked Dean Everson that. Like, you know, Fantilli's struggling. What are you doing to get him going? You know, because the answer seems to be giving him different line mates every 2 games and hoping for the best. Or giving him line mates that he doesn't, you know, gel with, and then sticking him, you know, keeping him with that. Like, he spent a good chunk of the first part of this season playing between Kevin LeBanc and James Van Riemsdyk. Like, what are we doing here? You know, so thank God we've gotten kind of away from that, but I still don't really know what they're doing with Adam Fantilli in terms of like long-term success here. Because right now it feels a little bit like the kid's confidence is low. And he's not trying too hard, but he's trying harder than he needs to. And I think it's overcompensating, you know? So who knows? But they need to figure out Adam Fantilli. Like, to me, that's the biggest problem right now, apart from, you know, the goaltending and the penalty kill. But like, in terms of like skaters specifically at even strength, like Adam Fantilli to me feels like the biggest problem for this team right now. They need to figure that out. And there are ways to do that. I just don't know why they're not doing that. They have their reasons, they're the NHL coaches. I'm just some schmuck with a microphone. But I feel like if you have evidence of one line working and one line not working, then why not go with the line that works? But that's just me. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk a little bit more about just kind of the game as a whole, because there were some things I wanted to talk about that I didn't get a chance to before I got distracted by my Adam Fantilli thoughts. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. When you play your first $5 lineup, you're going to get $50 instantly in bonus money to play more lineups. And you don't even need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. And they've also got fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player predictions are discounted up to 25%. This week on Prize Picks, I'm eyeing up the hockey board. I'm looking at Jack Hughes to get more than 4 shots on goal, and Artemi Panarin to get more than 1 assist. So easy to make my picks. I can have fun with friends, and I can cash out fast. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly with code LOCKEDONNHL after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the game as a whole, because it was just here's the thing, and here's what I kind of wanted to talk about is, and this is kind of both the blessing and the curse of doing this daily podcasting business, is sometimes I say a bunch of stuff and then they immediately turn around and prove me wrong. Like yesterday I talked about how Elvis is doing fine and how they play really well at home and how, the offense is fine and, all of this stuff. And then they turn around and do what they did last night, which was kind of just a whole lot of nothing until the last 5 minutes of the game. Because that's the thing. I think, again, if you look at a 5-3 game, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, Philadelphia pulled away and got an empty net goal at the end there. And so, it was really a 4-3 game. Nope, it wasn't. It was 5-1 with 8.5 minutes left in the game. Sean Monahan scores to make it a little bit more respectable, and then Ken Johnson scores with 36 seconds left, which I feel like he did that either last season or the season before. The Blue Jackets were down 2-0. They were down 1-0 against the Dallas Stars. The Stars they pull the goalie. The Stars immediately score an empty net to make it 2-0, and then Ken Johnson scores with 4 seconds left to make the empty net goal, the game-winning goal, which is always really funny, but it does make the game look better than it was. And again, I've talked about the forwards. The defense was not as bad as I thought it would be. The Provorov-Severson pairing was fine. Zach Werenski creates a lot because he always creates a lot. Dante Fabro kind of got caved in. Again, back-to-back bad games from Dante Fabro, which is not ideal. Christensen and Harris are kind of doing what Christensen and Harris do, which is not allow a lot, but also not creating a lot. In terms of creation and allowance, they were solidly middle of the pack in terms of what they allowed, and then slightly closer to the bottom in terms of what they create, which is kind of what I expect from a third pairing defensive pairing. But when you've got, guys like Fantilli, Voronkov, and Marchenko allowing almost 2 expected goals, and Adam Fantilli, for example, generated quarter of an expected goal last night and allowed 1.8. That line wasn't good enough. I don't know off the top of my head where the defensive pairing they matched up with was. Let's see if I can figure it out. It looks like they mostly matched up with Christensen and Harris. On and off, they matched up with Severson and Provorov. It's kind of tough to say who they matched up with because you got 4 lines and 3 defensive pairings, so it doesn't exactly match up against each other. But I would be interested to know who they played the most with. But this is the thing. Like, it was just a bad game for everyone. And it wasn't a good game to have a bad game. Like, they needed to come back to Nationwide. They needed to do a good. They needed to be a strong team, because now, if you look at it, if you look at the standings, because of that win, Philadelphia has jumped all the way up into the wild card spot, and the Blue Jackets are stuck at the bottom of their division. They are still only 3 points out of a wild card spot, but if they'd won last night, then they would have jumped Pittsburgh, New York, and Philadelphia to be sitting on 29 points. They have the same number of points as the New York Rangers, who are, again, continuing to kind of flail about and do their best, ? But they didn't. So, like, they threw away 2 perfectly good points, and now next up they've got to face Washington, which is the best team in the division right now. They're 19-6-2. They beat the Blue Jackets 7-2 or 8-2. The last time these two teams faced off against each other, they've got a goal differential of +35. Like, we'll talk about Washington tomorrow in a lot of detail. I'm not going to go through the whole thing now, and Washington is also 11-2 on the road, and they're going to be coming into Nationwide. So what do you do with that? Like, you needed to get those 2 points. This is what separates, like, playoff teams from non-playoff teams. Is playoff teams beat bad teams, or they beat teams that are on a level as them. If the Blue Jackets want to be a playoff team, they need to start winning these games against the Flyers. They need to start winning games against they need to win the game against the Ducks, which is coming up at the weekend. They need to start winning games against, like, in terms of, like, other teams that are kind of hovering around them in the standings. They need to be beating the Ottawa Senators, who they haven't faced yet this season. They need to beat the Red Wings. They need to beat the Penguins. They need to beat the Islanders. Like, yes, they've beaten the Islanders and the Penguins already this season, but, like, these are the teams that you need to pick up points against. Like, and then if you pick up points against, like, a Carolina, a Boston, a Florida, a Tampa Bay, whatever, like, those are bonus points. But, like, you expect the team to beat the Montreal Canadiens is another really good example. Like, if you want to be taken seriously as a playoff team, you need to be beaten. You can't be losing 2 games to the Montreal Canadiens that have 11 wins all season. Like, you can't lose to the Sharks. You can't lose to the Ducks. You can't lose to the Predators. These are all teams that the Blue Jackets have lost to this season. Like, these are games that you have to win, because if you don't win them, then the pressure is on, and now you have a lot of pressure to get 2 points against the Capitals tonight, or tomorrow night, excuse me. That becomes a much bigger game, because if you lose that, then that distance between you and the wildcard spot gets bigger and bigger. Like, if the Blue Jackets win, and, like, okay, luckily last night the Islanders lost, the Penguins lost, and I believe the Rangers lost as well. I don't know if the Rangers played last night off the top of my head, but, like, the Penguins lost and the Islanders lost, and, like, those are 2 teams that you needed to lose also, because for the Blue Jackets to kind of stay where they are in the division. So, like, they got some puck luck in terms of, like, out of town results, but the Blue Jackets are going to need to win games, and they're going to need other teams to start losing games if they want to, like, close the distance on that wild card spot. And we'll see if that happens. That's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow we're going to break down, or we're not going to break down. We're going to preview the Washington Capitals, who are in town. See if the Blue Jackets can put together a better, like, just basic effort, I guess, against this team. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube, and you can email me if you want to at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com if you have comments, questions, criticisms, etc. Find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTR. Find me on Blue Sky without the underscore. Find the show on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. Find us on Blue Sky soon. Thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.